MacVoices is sponsored by MintMobile. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Welcome back to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, as we've been doing, we are trying to reach out to some of the major developers in the Mac world and talk a little bit about how their apps have made the transition over to Catalina. And I can't think of anybody much more important than PDF Pen and Textexpander from Smile. And that means we get to talk to Mr. Jeff Gamet. Jeff, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
It's always awesome to get to hang out with you, Chuck.
Well,
I miss it when we don't have time to talk or when we have to go long times before chatting.
Well, I miss it too. And unfortunately, you've spent a lot more time on the road, and work has me plenty busy too. I've spent some time on the road. So it just makes the times we get together all the more special.
It does. And I have to say, when you said that your schedule is funny busy, I immediately had this image in my head of you in total clown makeup and the big rainbow frilly collar having to show up at a meeting. And I'm okay with it. The look totally works in a good way.
Is that like in a Stephen King It kind of way, or a bozo kind of way, or what?
Well, I suppose it depends on how you feel about clowns. So let's go with a happy, friendly way.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. Although there are certain meetings I wouldn't mind showing up as the other kind, but
and that's totally acceptable.
Yeah, we'll just leave that right there.
Show up at a meeting, and when you walk in intentionally, just a few seconds late, and everyone looks at you, you just stop, beep beep, Reggie, and sit down and keep going. It'll be great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then I'll be asking you to sign my resume as a recommendation.
I have no problem with this at all.
So you heard the introduction, and that's one reason, and you already know, that's why we're here. We want to talk about Textexpander and PDF Pen and find out how they have made the transition to Catalina. Has it been smooth? Has it been rough? What kind of, from both the developer side and I guess what customers can expect to see?
The transition was really smooth. So when Apple announced Catalina at Developer Conference, of course, the first developer beta comes out like within hours of the announcement. And so, of course, the first thing that we do, and I'm using the company we, because I did not install Developer Beta 1 on my computer. This is one place where I was so happy to let others rush in ahead of me because you never know with that first developer beta what's going to happen. But I mean, we were testing Textexpander and PDF Pen on Catalina Developer Beta 1 the day the beta was first available. And it's a testament to how forward-thinking everyone on the development team is, because everything just ran. I mean, yes, there's little things where maybe it didn't work exactly right, but PDF Pen and Textexpander were both they were functional and usable without any changes on Developer Beta 1. And so from that point forward, it was a matter of just going through everything meticulously and finding where there might be little problems and addressing those. And so by the time Catalina actually was released, we were ready, and it was great. The one place that we found with PDF Pen that was a problem before the Catalina release happened. It related to the way the licensing works. And so, but that wasn't exactly a Catalina thing. It kind of was. It's the way all the pieces fit together with the app and the licensing and Catalina. And what it meant is that for some users, after they install Catalina, they might have to re-enter their license information into PDFpen. And so, while that's not a big deal, and probably wouldn't be a problem for almost everyone that's using PDFpen, we went ahead and fixed it anyhow. So we had an update out before Catalina rolled out that addressed this potential issue where you might have to re-enter licensing information once. And I thought that was really cool, because why, as a user, should you really have to do that? And we were in a position where we could see the problem. We were able to fix it and have an update for that ready to go before Catalina was publicly available.
Jeff, was that just a code issue, or was that anything to do with all this new security in Catalina?
No, it was a code related thing.
Code. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and as far as security goes, with Catalina, we really haven't been seeing any issues. The potential issue that can come up, and this is not Catalina specific really, it's just something that we've had to deal with for the past couple macOS updates, where you install the new operating system and then maybe snippets stop expanding in Textexpander. And so then you have to go into accessibility and recheck the Textexpander elements in there so that they have permission to actually do their thing, and then you're back in business.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've heard from a lot of folks who've been doing the upgrading, both online and feedback through email and social media, that the security things are just so. I mean, some people adjust to it. Some people say it's really annoying, and why do I have to do it? And of course, it's just the way the world is. And if you want your Mac to be insecure, there are ways to make it insecure and make it very convenient. But who wants to do that, especially with what can happen to you? Because it's not just a matter of even having something as important as your social media credentials stolen, but it can be bank accounts and brokerage accounts and the kind of stuff that really does matter.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's the problem that I'm seeing with the let's call it more enhanced security or more forward security in Catalina. And it's that for some people, they don't understand why they're suddenly having to deal with a handful of dialogues asking for permission for something, or maybe a whole barrage of dialogues asking for permissions. And what would be nice is if Apple could have figured out a way to make that still something that you have to proactively approve, but without making it so obtrusive. And the reason I say that is because I remember the jokes that people in the Apple community made about Windows for years. About every time something happens and needs permission, you're getting a dialogue popping up. And even to the point where we had the joke about Windows has detected that you moved your mouse. Your computer needs to restart for this change to take effect. Click OK. And to a degree, that's how Catalina feels right at the beginning when you have to go through all of this new permission approval for all of these apps to do the things that they need to do. And I can see where people might get desensitized to that and start doing the sort of thing that we saw with Windows users, where a dialogue would pop up and they would just click it. They never even read it. And yes, I know there were lots of Windows users that paid attention to all the dialogues, but if you're being desensitized to these dialogues then they stop being effective, because now you'll start granting permission to everything just to get the stupid window out of the way. So I don't know how Apple can address that, but I would like to see them try.
I would agree, Jeff, but I think that maybe you and I here can start the process, and hopefully everybody else will pick it up too. That, yeah, this when you make the transition over to Catalina, you're going to have a lot of this, especially at the beginning, because all your apps are launching for the first time, or you're reinstalling them, or whatever process you're going through. And so you're going to have to grant those permissions. After that, after you get through that initial wave of this barrage of security windows, it seems, at least in my limited experience with Catalina so far, it seems like that calms down a lot. And the only time I have it is when I install another new app, or an app gets a major update or something like that. So it's not an ongoing thing like it seems to have been in some cases with Windows.
I will grant you that. It's definitely heavy at the beginning, and then after that, it seems to be the dialogues pop up when you install something new, or in some cases when an app gets an update. So, I mean, it's nice that it tapers off fairly quickly. But man, right at the beginning, that experience of having all those dialogues pop up, I'm seeing where that is a major annoyance for a lot of people, and what's otherwise a transition into a more modern version of Mac OS gets this kind of bitter taste right at the beginning. And do you know what it is? I just figured it out. This is great. It's almost like you're my technology therapist today, because you're letting me talk through things. It doesn't feel Apple-like. That's what it is.
It doesn't. You're right. But to be fair, I'm not sure how you could make it Apple-like unless you could set up some kind of master application control panel that says, okay, I want security on for this, this, and this. And in a way, they've already done that in the security preference pane. So, that sort of is that control panel that you're looking for. It's just too bad that there's not a way to maybe do it all at once, as opposed to each time an app or a new app opens.
I agree. And this is why there are people working for Apple that make a lot more than you and I do, so that they can figure these things out for us.
Yeah, and I would hope that, at some point they can. But a part of this, Jeff, part of this feels to me like, you and I go back a number of years where passwords were just a formality, if you will. It was not a way to secure your account, but it was more a way to identify yourself on the system, so that preferences were set up the way you liked them, and the screen was the right color, and those kind of things, as opposed to securing my identity and maybe my credit card and my address and my phone number and my email address. And then somewhere along the way, the bad guys started to get a lot smarter about how to try to take advantage of it. And now we're constantly pimping, 1Password and similar utilities, and complex passwords and two-factor authentication, which is another inconvenience, but that's just sort of the world we live in.
It is. You're right. Times have changed. Well, I mean, for a long time, your Mac was a single user interface.
True.
And then Mac OS 10 came along, and we're working with a true multi-user interface. And wow, yeah, things have changed so much from those days when I remember those days. Zip disks, CDs. Good times.
Yep. Floppy drives.
Floppy drives. Yep.
SCSI drives. Ooh, ooh. Yeah. Sorry.
I still have a SCSI Terminator in a box somewhere, just to remember.
I'm sure I have one too, but not just to remember, just because I haven't gotten rid of it yet. Jeff, I want to circle back to Textexpander in particular,
Mm-hmm.
and I know this would predate your time with Smile. So, but I don't think I'm remembering it wrong when Apple at some point really pulled a switch on Textexpander, and certain things that Textexpander at that time did to work its magic was completely eliminated. The permissions or the ability to do its thing were eliminated. I don't recall if Smile had to rewrite it from the ground up, but they had to do some major renovations to it. And with all the security in today's world, I was a little concerned that Textexpander might not make the jump over. I mean, I was certainly confident in the Smile ability to make it happen if it could happen, but I didn't know. And so it's a huge relief for me to find the Textexpander works just like on Mojave.
Well, I can't speak to the we'll call it the before time, since I wasn't working for Smile at Textexpander yet, and I can't speak to the before time simply because I honestly have no idea what had to happen behind the scenes to address changes Apple was making. But where we are now, the whole thing about how do you balance working with something in the operating system and maintaining security, that's the sort of thing that Greg and Philip are thinking about all the time, and then everyone on the development team is very focused on as well, which is great because the sorts of things that people put in Textexpander are in some cases it's very personal. In other cases, it's just stuff that they need. Like maybe they misspell restaurant all the time, and so they put restaurant into Textexpander so that they don't have to try and remember how to spell it. Or maybe it's proprietary information for your company that you use internally, and it's all stuff that should be protected. And I'm glad that the approach that we're taking really honors that, and the way that we look at the way Textexpander fits in with the operating system, because Textexpander works everywhere you type. It's not like you have to build something special into an application on your Mac to make it work well, and now Windows, because it's available there too. But it's just something where we've been looking at how do you be a good citizen with the operating system, and work within the security confines that the operating system has, as opposed to trying to find a shortcut around that to make a coding element easier. So I think because of that, it's made it a lot easier to transition into the next version of the operating system without having any serious headaches on our side.
I think you're probably right. And you bring up a really excellent point, because of the way the Textexpander, the way that Smile now offers the current version of Textexpander as a subscription. And we've addressed this from a couple different angles on the show before, but the idea that now it's being used a lot more by businesses and teams, and secure information is being included. Corporate information is being included in there. Before, it was just maybe the shortcut for your email address or my email address, and that takes nothing away from that capability as a single user. But when you start implementing this in a business setting and across teams, you want that security and you want a lot more control. Right. And If I were Smile, I would definitely want to be putting that on my server, and I can control the security for my users as opposed to sharing it through something like, well, through another cloud service or another option that may not be as secure, or at least that you wouldn't have control over.
Uh, yes, totally spot on. And if you look at the way you used to be able to share snippets through Textexpander, where you were using other cloud services to hold your data. Okay, it worked, but it wasn't reliable because you were totally reliant on someone else's cloud service actually doing what it's supposed to do. And it's no secret in the Apple community that services like, say, iCloud aren't always reliable. So changing that and having our own cloud service for handling all that data, that increased security and reliability just like overnight.
Well, and we're talking about Textexpander right now, but I'm thinking about something like 1Password as well, which is another one of my favorite utilities. And I won't speak for you,
Same.
and I know a lot of other people. They went to their own cloud service. You can, I think the option is still there to store it somewhere else, but I believe they're using their own cloud service now for that very same reason. They control the server, they control the APIs, they control everything. So it's about as reliable as they can possibly make it and as secure as they can make it.
Shout out to 1Password, because I used to have problems where my 1Password database would sometimes get out of sync, and that's back when I was using an older version where all my data was being stored on, I don't know, I was probably using Dropbox because that's what everyone used. And when they switched to the system where that they have now, where it's their own servers that are handling that data, I have never had a data synchronization issue with my databases in 1Password. It's just worked.
Yeah. And again, because it's Apple's philosophy that they make the entire widget, the software and the hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, 1Password can't make the whole widget as far as the computer, but they can make the software and the server that delivers the service to the software, and that's as much control as they can possibly exert.
Sure. And when you're doing like Agile is with 1Password, and like we're doing a Textexpander where we're controlling that cloud host part, it makes it much easier to deal with growth, because of course we know how many users we have. If we didn't, that would be a big problem. And it makes it much easier when you really know how many users you have, and you can look at what's happening with the different markets that you're in. You can actually build out your server infrastructure much more intelligently, and really reduce the risk of having downtime.
Mint Mobile is sponsoring this edition of MacVoices, and that makes me very happy. Why? Because Mint Mobile is different than those other big wireless providers that all do the same thing the same way and expect you to keep footing the bill. Mint Mobile is a new kind of carrier doing business online without the need for big, expensive retail stores, and they pass the savings on to you. My Mint Mobile experience started about a week before I was doing some traveling. I popped my old SIM out of my iPhone, put the new SIM in, and went through the very easy activation process, and was up and running in no time. Then I took my new phone from central Pennsylvania to Chicago, then to Boston, and then on to Las Vegas, and never missed a beat. My only reminder was seeing Mint at the top of my iPhone screen instead of my old carrier. You can have that same experience and cut your wireless bill down to $15 a month, and that includes unlimited nationwide talk and text. Stop paying for unlimited data you'll never use. Mint Mobile has plans with 3, 8, or 12 gigabytes of LTE data. Isn't it time you reevaluated your cell carrier? Give Mint Mobile a look, cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month, and get the plan shipped to your door for free by visiting mintmobile.com/MacVoices. That's mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Mint Mobile for their support of MacVoices. Jeff, I don't think we anticipated maybe getting in this kind of depth or from this angle, but I think it is important for folks to understand a little bit that there are reasons for so many of these things, and we've talked a lot about, I think, how developers now, they have to deliver different levels of service for a lot of their apps. And they have to deliver them across multiple machines. They have to deliver them across teams and businesses. They have to deliver them for iOS and Mac OS and now iPad OS, and all of that stuff lends to A, more expense, but B, needing to be more versatile and being able to control more of the overall experience. And so that's one of the reasons that so many developers of big services have gone this direction. And Smile did it kind of early, and they took it on the chin for a little while, but I think they've come out the other side. And if anybody's really understanding and paying attention, I think they have to respect what Smile did.
When that transition happened, I was not with the company. And so I was looking at it from the other side as a technology journalist and blogger and podcaster. And of course, like so many other people, I was looking at that transition and thinking, man, this is a big gamble. This could be a really good way to lose customers, or this could be a really powerful tool to propel the product to a new level. And in the case of Textexpander, well, it's a latter, because the product has been able to grow and expand and serve customers that it previously wouldn't have been able to do. And and that's great. I totally get that for some people the subscription model is distasteful, and that's not just focused on Textexpander. It's any application or service where you're having to pay a subscription fee. I get it. It's you need to pay for the things that you really need, but then at the same time, you don't want to pay more than you have to. That's just how people are, and that's okay. But yeah, it was rough to watch from the outside, and now that I'm on the inside, and I can look at what we're doing with that perspective, and then I can project that out onto what other companies are doing, like Agile or Agile Bits with 1Password. Omni Group, they're taking an interesting approach to subscriptions. And then you have the big players like Adobe and the way they're handling subscriptions. I'm finding the whole thing very interesting, and it's one of those things where if you are developing your product in a really smart way and you're actually providing that real value to your customers, yeah, I get where that subscription can actually be a really valuable tool for the users and the developers too.
Yeah, if you think back, it would be interesting to have somebody do a study of let's pretend it's a 5-year cost of the initial purchase of product X, and then each of the paid for upgrades during that time period, as opposed to if you did a subscription model and let it dribble out and see at the end of 5 years, did you pay more? Did you pay less by a significant number either way, or was it about the same? I think it's the idea that it's the Chinese water torture that, just drip, drip, drip. And it feels like you're paying a lot of money.
Yes, for some apps, I think it's totally that, where it feels like you're paying a lot of money, but you're not, comparatively. In other cases, maybe you are paying a little bit more, but you're probably also getting a lot more for that. Years ago, when Adobe did the transition to subscription for all of their customers, I did the math, and based on what to me was a reasonable upgrade cycle for professionals using Creative Suite, they would, in the long run, spend less with a subscription. But there were people that disagreed with me on that, and that's okay. And anyhow, yes.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, I think that people feel like the choice was taken out of their hands. And we'll use the Adobe example. Plenty of people said, "Okay, I don't need this year's update, so I'll just keep on running last year's or 2 years ago until they give me features that I really can use." So they maybe didn't do the upgrades because they weren't forced to. With the subscription model, you're kind of forced into it. But your point about, you're getting more value for it. And I think this is where, and I've said this without Smile being on the program, but I think Smile has done a great job of backing up what they said they were going to do by constantly rolling out features and improvements. Now, not every one of those is like, oh my God, it's changing my workflow, it's changing my world. But they're good, solid updates, and maybe they apply to a small niche market, or maybe they apply to something larger. But they are providing those updates, and there is value to having that done, and not having to wait 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year for the next major upgrade.
I'm in a position right now where a piece of software that is critical to my workflow has not been updated for Catalina. And I'm not going to call anyone out because that's just not my way.
Right.
But what it means is that I've been put in a position where I have to decide, can I make my workflow still work without that piece of software until it gets updated for Catalina? Or do I have to leave my main production machine on Mojave and wait for them to catch up with me? And this is a tool that falls under I'll call it the old school perpetual license model. And while I know they're hard at work on getting Catalina support totally there, they're also in the position where they need to make it more enticing for people to get the update beyond just saying it will still function. And so they're facing that as well. I think it's been harder for them to be able to just push out the little updates along the way and make sure that everything's ready, so that when the transition happens, it just happens. That there needs to be a little more fanfare, I suppose, with what they're doing. And so I have to wait for their software.
It's a double-edged sword, because I've seen some developers that I felt like I was really surprised that they didn't have their apps prepared for Catalina, or for iOS 13 for that matter. If we're talking about the iPhone and iPad. Some, I think, they got caught in those inevitable last-minute changes, and that just happens because they were updated then pretty quickly afterwards. Some others, were you asleep at the switch? And look, I am not picking on the developers because I am not a developer, so I have no idea what I'm talking about. but it seemed like you had an awful long time and a lot of warning here. And so now you've got Jeff Gamet, who's sitting there with a workflow that he was used to. He's looking for a way to work around the fact that you're not up to date. He may find something better or just find a different way to do it, and you've lost a customer. And that's a problem too for the developer, because they may not be able to get it working in time to make you happy.
Yeah, that's a really hard place to be. And the developers that have had to put a lot of work into getting their products up to speed so they will even just function on Catalina. Man, I mean, yeah, I get for some people that means that they may have to scrap major parts of their code and start over. And it, I, I feel for those people, and I'm not a coder, but yeah, I feel for them. That's a tough place to be, and then the fear of, well, what if my customers find something else that works well enough while they're waiting for whatever we need to roll out, and then they're gone because they found something that's working well enough, and you know how inertia is.
Yep. If you've solved my problem today, most likely I'm going to let you solve it tomorrow. So,
Yeah.
but you made an interesting comment there earlier, and I wanted to follow up on that. Do you think that developers really that we should expect developers to be adding new features during this transition if they're asking us to pay for it, and now we're into non-subscription models? Or do you think it is adequate to say, hey, we've got this new version and it's completely up and running on Catalina, but it took us a while to get it done, and we got to ask you to pay for it?
Man, that's a hard place to be. It's
You mean to answer the question or to be in the developer spot?
To be in the developer spot. Well, and to answer the question, because I mean, if you have to put in enough work to get Catalina compatibility, where you need to charge your users for that, well, you don't want to lose money. You're not doing your customers any favors by taking a big loss and putting yourself in a bad financial position where ultimately you may not be able to provide them a product at all. But at the same time, you don't want to alienate your users by making them pay for something that on its surface looks like something that you should just be giving them. That's a tough place to be. I'm not coming up with a good answer for that one.
Well, but I think maybe you just said something interesting. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect somebody to ask me to pay for something to keep it up to date and keep it running. I mean, I have to pay for maintenance on my car to keep it up to date and keep it running. Not quite the same thing, but close enough, I think. Because I listen, I tell you, if for certain applications, yeah, I would probably go out and try to find a workaround. But certain applications, I'd be more than happy to say, send the developer $20 and say, here, please make this work with Catalina, so I don't have to go through a major change in my workflow, and so I can continue to do what I do with your app.
This is why developers love you, Chuck.
Well, I don't know. I'm not doing it out of the goodness of my heart, Jeff. If anything, it's kind of selfish because I don't want to go through the pain of having to do that. I would happily pay $20. It's worth $20 rather than me spending that much time trying to reinvent the wheel. Here's $20. Let the wheel keep rolling.
I've been sitting here listening to you, and I've realized, had the developer that has left me with a hole in my workflow, if they had said after Catalina was announced, hey, we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we're Catalina ready, and we need to make this a paid upgrade. And even if they had said, hey, prepay so that the day it's available, you just get it and you won't have any extra downtime or any downtime, and it's $20, I would have given them $20 right up front.
Yeah.
But I see the value in that tool for me. So to me, it's not an issue where I feel like I'm being nickeled and dimed. It's something where if it's going to take some extra money to make this happen so that my workflow still works right, take my $20.
Yeah, and it's an interesting problem for the developer, because I agree with you. If it's the right app, send that notice to me. I'll send you the $20. Then you got to deliver. Then you've taken my money, but you've also set my expectations, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of pressure.
It's also a lot of incentive.
Yeah, I agree. Or if you say, hey, this is what it's going to be, and we're going to work really hard, and then they put all that time in, and then they find out that people weren't really serious about sending them that $20. A, they either found a workaround, or B, just decided it wasn't worth it. Now they've lost money because they gambled on what the users were telling them, and the users didn't follow through. So it's tough. It's trust one direction or trust the other direction.
That's a tough place to be.
Yeah. Yeah, as always, we take our conversations in completely unexpected directions. I did want to come back, though, and ask you a little bit about the Textexpander blog, because I'm seeing posts there that I'm getting some serious value out of,
Awesome.
and learning new things and new resources that are available to me as a Textexpander user. And I want to ask you to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, the reason we have the Textexpander blog, it's not there to be a commercial to say buy Textexpander. It's really there because we see value in education. And the idea that we have these resources, meaning the various writers that we're working with, that can provide really useful information to people, regardless of whether or not they're using Textexpander, I mean, that's just awesome. So, yeah, we have a blog, and we have articles going up multiple times a week, where the idea is we have something or someone has information that's going to be helpful to at least a segment out there. Let's get that information out there, and if it fits with using Textexpander as well, okay, great. But really, it's about genuinely wanting to offer some useful information to people.
And it is delivering that. I mean, you're right. There's always, I think, a temptation to have anybody's blog be buy it now, but this is just good, solid information, and it lets you know about the capabilities of Textexpander, and maybe things that weren't as obvious or that you just hadn't stumbled across yet. So I would encourage anyone to go and check it out, especially if you're already a Textexpander user.
Yeah, I'm going to call out a couple of series we did since you brought this up.
Please.
We did a whole series on being a presenter, which was just great. So it was a series of posts where you could go and learn tips about becoming a better public speaker and better presenter. And we have productivity articles. Let's see, what's another one that I've been following. I read every single article that we post because I'm finding value in all of these too. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So what's your next stop? I know that we caught you at home finally, but you're out on the road a lot advocating for Textexpander and helping educate people to it. What do you have coming between now and the end of the year?
Next stop is St. Louis. So it'll be November 1st, 2nd, 3rd, I believe, are the dates. That'll be WordCamp US. And that should be a lot of fun. I will be there. Well, we're going to have a booth. We're one of the event sponsors. So I'll be there. Stacy will be with me. And I'd have to go check and see if we have anyone else joining us. But anyhow, we'll be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And that may actually be my last conference for the year. I'll have to go check my schedule. It's I make a folder for every travel event that I have, and it has printed everything that I need for the event, even though I keep all of it digitally in OneNote as well. But having that hard copy has proven to be invaluable more than once. So when people ask me now, well, how many conferences have you gone to this year? How many travel events have you had for Textexpander this year? I can say it's been this many because that's how thick the stack is. And there's another one waiting to go with me to St. Louis as well.
Who would have thought that Jeff Gamet would be analog?
You know, I take a lot of guff for that, and I'm fine because my analog process for making sure I have everything I need for whatever the travel event is, it has saved my butt so many times. It's crazy.
Jeff, of course I'm joking, but something I don't publicize too much myself is that I have a folder whenever I go on an event, and I print out every invitation, every confirmation, everything.
Yep.
Just because it's all on my phone and it's all managed through apps. But if push really does come to shove for any reason, I could pull that paper out and say, here. And it's weird. People still will react to paper differently than if they're seeing something on a screen, especially in hotels.
Oh, I know. I've had more than one occasion where, actually not this year, it's been in the past, where I get to the hotel, I give them my name, and they say, "That's odd. We're not finding this." So I bring up the confirmation number on my phone. I'm like, "Well, here's the number." They're like, I pull out the folder and I spin it around to the page that has my printed reservation, and magically they can find the reservation. And I know they're not like stringing me along, thinking, "Oh, we've got his money. Let's just not give him a room." No, it's. I'm sure it's a psychological thing. I put that printed piece of paper in front of them, and suddenly they're able to process whatever it is that they need to process in their mind to be able to actually find the reservation and get me checked in.
Yeah, I've had exactly the same experience. It makes no sense whatsoever, but I've had the same experience.
People are complicated animals.
Yeah. And then I bring all that paper home with me and I throw it in the shredder.
I don't.
You don't?
I have all of those stashed away along with all the printed receipts for everything that happened at the event. And then at that point, if at some point down the road we need to have documentation for something that I've done, all I need to know is which event it was, because I write it on the front of the folder, and I can go grab that folder and we have everything all in one place.
Okay. I mean, usually I don't have that. I will do something like that for corporate travel where, I need to document my expenses. But once the expense account check clears, it goes to the shredder. I just don't like to have that information hanging around because you never know what's in the barcodes or on the hotel keys or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's probably more information than you really want to know about me in the pile of folders that I have stashed away from travel events.
Okay, well, just keep them secure, please.
No problem.
Okay. Jeff, it's great to see you. Where can folks contact you on social media about Textexpander or PDF Pen or anything Smile related or anything not Smile related?
I'm easy to find on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Jay Gamet, and then all the blog posts that you mentioned, you can just go to textexpander.com to find those. And yeah, I get around, so I'm pretty easy to find. And if you're interested in anything PDF Pen related, yes, I am not the PDF Pen evangelist. I'm the Textexpander evangelist, but I love me PDF Pen. Oh man, I have a PDF Pen story for you real quick before we wrap up.
Yeah.
So when I was in a position, this is several years ago, where I needed to be creating some PDF forms on a pretty regular basis. What everyone assumes you do is you use Acrobat and you make your PDF forms. But it took so long and it was such a painful process, but I could do it with PDF Pen Pro. And so I would crank out a PDF form in minutes in PDF Pen that would take me at least an hour and lots of swearing in Acrobat. So I've been a PDF Pen fan for a very long time, just like I've been a Textexpander fan for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, there are two apps that I don't use PDF Pen as much as I use Textexpander, but I still use it an awful lot. And Textexpander, I don't even want to think about living without because it just saves me so much time. And as you mentioned earlier, it makes sure that I get certain things right. And that's really important, especially when publishing something, say, to the web. One letter out of line or one slash out of line, and it's not going to function. So you got to get it right.
Yep.
Well, come back again. And I should say, folks, if you're in St. Louis at WordCamp, go see Jeff. He'll be there.
Yes, come see me. I will have some cool Textexpander swag, and I would love to give it away. Great.
Jeff, come back again, and I've got a couple things in mind for you before the end of the year. So folks will be seeing you. If you have time, we'll make it happen.
For you, Chuck, I always have time.
Thank you. Good to see you, my friend.
It's awesome to see you, and thank you for inviting me back. I mean, you do, and I'm always surprised. Chuck really wants me back again after last time.
Yeah,
seriously, I love getting to talk with you. It's awesome.
Well, and I always enjoy it too, and I know the folks enjoy it too. So it's a win-win-win across the board. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. That's Jeff Gamet. Go to see him at WordCamp in St. Louis, or you can look for him back here on MacVoices before the end of the year. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.